Great crisis is already engulfing Britain, partly because of the Labour Party's treachery and deceit of its supporters. The Labour Party, which came to power on false pretenses, is to blame, not the electorate. Our goal in making this video is to expose Keir Starmer's and the Labour Party's incompetence. We'll draw attention to their shortcomings, broken pledges, and the reasons why Starmer's demise seems likely. Where is the change, we wonder, in spite of all the promises of change? Please remember to like and subscribe before we begin the first clip so that you can see our most recent stuff. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank my colleague Jeremy Corbyn, whose opinions on a number of subjects, including freedom of movement, have generated a great deal of discussion. Even though Corbyn's positions are divisive, they merit examination in order to comprehend the larger framework of the present political issues. Let's now concentrate on Keir Starmer. His political career appears to be based more and more on dishonesty and discrepancies. His future as Prime Minister is seriously jeopardized by this trend. Starmer's constant shifting of positions betrays an unsettling degree of ambiguity and calls into question his competence for the position. His leadership abilities are called into question by his incapacity to articulate a coherent and consistent vision. We will look at Starmer's reactions to specific complaints in the following video, which highlight even more of his flaws. Ella, a Sunderland resident who was concerned about her escalating energy costs, spoke with Starmer directly. Her experience demonstrates how Starmer's work and the problems that regular people encounter are completely different from each other. Starmer used a lot of energy, but her response was unprofessional and unhelpful, not acknowledging the seriousness of the problem. See the two recent articles that are referenced in the video description for further information. These stories highlight Labour's consistent pledges to lower energy costs, despite the fact that energy prices are still rising. This serious problem of not keeping its word casts doubt on the present administration's capacity to deal with urgent issues. Starmer promised supporters throughout his campaign that Labour had a costed and well-thought-out plan to freeze energy prices. Recent events, however, indicate that these assurances have not come to pass. The financial burden on households has increased as a result of the energy bill increase that was predicted. This mismatch between what was promised and what is actually happening casts doubt on Starmer's skill and capacity to handle important problems. The impending increase in energy costs has come to represent Labour's inability to offer workable alternatives. The current energy problem has been swiftly attributed by the Labour Party to the former Conservative government. While it is true that previous policies have exacerbated the problem, Starmer's incapacity to offer a coherent and workable crisis management plan betrays a lack of leadership and strategic vision. Notwithstanding Labour's assurances, energy prices continue to grow, suggesting a significant discrepancy between the party's rhetoric and its capacity to implement significant change. In yet another eye-opening video, Starmer's answers to inquiries concerning Jeremy Corbyn exposed his alarming lack of candor. When asked about his earlier endorsement of Corbyn as a possible Prime Minister, Starmer's answers were vague and unclear. There are significant questions regarding Starmer's honesty and integrity raised by this denial and the evasive responses given. His unwillingness to publicly address prior endorsements casts doubt on his leadership abilities and erodes his reputation. Let's go back and review Starmer's earlier remarks for context. Starmer strongly encouraged people to choose Jeremy Corbyn as Prime Minister in the previous two general elections. He even implied that Corbyn would be a fantastic Prime Minister at one time. When asked about this compliment, Starmer asserted that the party was unprepared and that he was positive Labour will lose the 2019 election. Although he acknowledged running for Labour, he seemed to be more interested in helping his good colleagues win seats than in embracing Corbyn's leadership. This incoherent position betrays a lack of transparency and conviction. The problems we have looked at are not isolated events, rather, they are a part of a larger trend of mismanagement and failures inside the Labour Party. Starmer's leadership and the party's future are seriously jeopardized by his incapacity to fulfill important commitments as well as his vacillating views and lack of transparency. His erratic handling of important matters, like immigration and energy policy, adds to the public's sense of uncertainty and bewilderment. Voters become confused by this unpredictability, and the Labour Party's capacity to put forward a cogent and trustworthy agenda is weakened. Ineffective governance and policy paralysis can result from this absence of a defined and consistent approach. Starmer's reputation is further damaged by his inclination to sidestep challenging inquiries and his unclear views on earlier endorsements, such as his stance on Jeremy Corbyn. Intransparency about goals or past actions made by a leader sows doubt and mistrust among supporters and even within the party. There is accumulating evidence to imply that the future of the Labour Party is in jeopardy due to Starmer's leadership. If these problems are not resolved quickly and clearly, there may be internal strife and dwindling public support. In order to restore its credibility and efficacy, the Labour Party needs to address these fundamental problems. The Labour Party's standing in British politics as well as Starmer's leadership could be seriously jeopardized in the absence of major adjustments and a more defined agenda. The persistent criticism and clear disconnection from the concerns of the electorate highlight the pressing need to reevaluate policy methods and leadership techniques. In conclusion, the current situation facing the Labour Party sheds light on the larger issues confronting British politics. In order for the party to bounce back and meet the requirements of its voters, it has to show that it is committed to finding an open and accountable solution to these problems. The Labour Party's influence over UK politics and Starmer's leadership prospects are both in peril in the absence of these adjustments.